Alright, Void, I bit off a lot to chew with this one. Okay, so I've this film's been on my radar for a little while, mostly due to the controversies and publicities around it. A few years ago at the Cannes Film Festival, this movie was shown, and apparently there was some debate whether or not they're showing the correct version of the film, whether the R-rated or the unrated, and there were several. Apparently, about 100 people walked out of the movie. And this is back in 2018. And while the movie still got a standing ovation at Cannes, a lot of the people who walked out definitely stand by and have since condemned it. And that is The House That Jack Built. This is a film by Lars von Trier, which tells you a lot about where we're going here. I've only seen one other Lars von Trier film before, Dogville, and I will say I did really like that one. It's another movie I have been meaning to revisit at some point, but this one is, well, it's an interesting movie. This movie is pretentious as fuck. It is artsy in the extreme, which, when paired with the incredibly graphic scenes, is definitely an odd mix. Now, I can't say I dislike this movie, but it does have its problems. Hi. First and foremost, this movie's way too long. It did not need to be 2.5 hours long. And you feel those 2.5 hours, as it is a slow-paced movie. Pretty much the scenes of the ultra-violence interspersed seem to be a way to wake you back up, as it seems to be a long philosophical discussion about evil, more or less. It's pretty much the main character, Jack, is recounting to someone named Verge throughout the film, and it pretty much starts with him saying that he's going to tell about 5 incidents to illustrate his life and his point. And so it sounds like he's like talking to a pastor at a confession after he's been caught. It's kind of the impression you're left with. It goes a little different from there, but essentially it seems to flash around randomly to incidents in his life, or particularly some very gruesome killings. And the film does not hold back in any regard. And I will say it's definitely some of the more over-the-top depictions I have seen, and I will give some praise for that. The gore effects are very good, and so the disturbing elements are indeed rather disturbing. But it is a very talky, very preachy movie. And just speaks with a lot of depictions of art, architecture, and piano playing. It's not an easy film to get into, and it's easy for the mind to start wandering during this one. I mean, I can't say I disliked it, because while it is being artsy, it definitely does draw you in. So for the most part, it's just depicting the serial killer who has dubbed himself Mr. Sophistication. I don't know if they really show why. They never really go into... They talk a lot. He talks a lot about his past, but they never really show how he began. They just seem to start showing random snippets. I think they show his first victim, which seemed to have been more of a random incident. But from there, it's him slowly filling his freezer full of dead bodies. And at one point, he's said to have killed over 60 people. Well, meanwhile, he's also trying to build Jack is trying to build his own house. But he's an engineer, not an architect, so he keeps having to rebuild before deciding he needs better material and effectively making a house of corpses. And then it goes into the epilogue, which I'm not going to go into here, but where it gets really symbolic, over the top. And it's kind of flashes, it means the whole film was more, shows you more where he was telling the story and why. Which does add a little bit of a level, but again, pretentious as fuck. Okay. Matt Dillon plays Jack, and he does very good at being this awkward, neurotic killer. he indicates that he has OCD at first, which the killings help him with. So, like, it's weird that watching him, like, you're almost rooting for him to get away with some of the violent things you're doing, which the director did say was intentional. It's trying to have a way of making him relatable and the protagonist, yet at the same time being so horrible. It's a weird movie. I would recommend, if you have any interest in it, definitely checking it out, because it does have a lot to say, and it says it all. But it is worth listening. I'd give this one about a 6 MacGuffins. It's above average, but again, it's way too long. And definitely has some pacing issues. But overall, it's worth a shot. As for the over-the-top gore effects, yeah, it definitely is extreme, but compared to some other things I've even reviewed on my show, nah. I mean, it's no Martyrs. Alright. Yeah, I think that's about it on here. This is probably the last one I'm doing before I begin my 24-hour movie binge tomorrow, as I think this is plenty for watching for them, especially when I'm going to be doing God knows how many movies tomorrow. Wish me luck, Void, and see you then.